Who on the St. Louis Blues actually has trade value, and who on the St. Louis Blues is it just not worth to trade?
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on LLB, I'm going to talk to you about trade or keep. We did a game yesterday called Cut or Keep. Today, it is trade or keep because we're going to be very realistic about the players that I believe that we can package and the players that maybe you should wait a little bit until they can get more value, which means closer to the trade deadline. I believe it's easier said than done that in the offseason you want to completely transform your team. However, that's just not possible. And sometimes the best decision is when a team is desperate and then you can allow your players to be traded. That way you can get more in return. But again, my 2 cents. And we're going to, of course, talk about game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals because I have some thoughts. But before we begin today's episode, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. I believe there are some players that you should not trade in the offseason because they would make a bigger impact trade value-wise if you trade them closer to the deadline. And a player that I get a lot of comments about is Jordan Kyrou. Personally, I would not trade Kyrou as it is. I think that Jordan Kyrou is a very good player. However, I can understand the frustrations with the turnovers, which is something that he does a lot. And for a 27-year-old, it's unacceptable, right? Anyways, Jordan Kyrou is going to be wearing the blue note, in my opinion, for a while. He will be in his 3rd out of 8 years with his new contract. He will be a UFA in 2031 at age 33. Don't forget that Kyrou was drafted in the 2nd round. He was the 35th pick in the 2016 NHL entry draft. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saying that, because he was not a first rounder. And I feel like we have a lot of expectations of him because of his contract. It's more so the fact that he is one of the highest paid players on the Blues besides Robert Thomas. They have identical contracts in that sense. I think that if Kyrou wasn't paid as much, maybe people wouldn't have so many complaints about him. But I feel like a lot of the complaints do stem from the fact of how much money he is making, more so less when he was drafted. So I wanted to put that in. I feel like sometimes we don't always put in information that I feel like would be really, helpful, right? Information that would help us better understand why do we feel a certain type of way about a player. And I just want to remind you of some statistics because, again, with Jordan Kyrou, it's so easy to dismiss him. But since 2018, almost 28, 2018-19 season up until now, he has played 416 games. He totals 150 goals and has 182 assists. Total points is 332. Jordan Kyrou this past season has scored his career high. Has scored his 2nd high of 36 goals. His career high, I meant to say, was 37 back in the 2022-23 season. That means for 3 consecutive seasons, Jordan Kyrou has scored 30-plus goals. And this is something that maybe we don't talk about enough. Obviously, I look back at his point high season, which was 21-22 with 27 goals and a whopping 48 assists. The one thing about Jordan Kyrou was that he played a little bit less on ice this year with a total ice time averaging about 17 minutes. So it definitely took a little bit of a turn on that. This season, he actually had not as many shots on goal of 239. A year prior was 251, and then the year before that was 272. However, what I will say is that his face-off percentage still stays consistent, about a 33%. So that, to me, in my opinion, is good. I feel like Jordan Kyrou is one of those players that I don't really necessarily know why, but having an 8-year, $65 million contract puts a lot of pressure on a player. He was 23 years of age when he signed that initial contract. And I do believe that, Kyrou's from Canada, he's from Toronto. Like he's been around hockey culture. It just puts a lot on him, right? And I feel like we have just seen Kyrou continuously develop. I mean, we look back and in 2028, not 28, 2018, he was an OHL All-Star team player, and he played in the All-Star game for the Blues in 2022. So Jordan Kyrou has accomplished a lot in his time wearing the Blue Notes so far. So when I see people saying things like trade Kyrou, get rid of Kyrou, my question to you is this. Do you want to get rid of the player, or do you want to get rid of the contract? And that is my issue when it comes to Jordan Kyrou, is that I feel like there is a huge emphasis on the contract and maybe not so much him as a player, because a player to be able to get a total of 30 plus goals for the past 3 consecutive seasons says a lot. And again, Jordan Kyrou played 82 games this season as he did last season. So now he's had 2 seasons back to back where he's played the full 82 games, which again, it's impressive, right? I just don't want it to be a situation where we just focus so much so maybe on the negatives about Kyrou and not so much the positives about Kyrou. We look back to the playoffs this year. He played 7 games because, again, the series went to 7, and he scored 3 goals. Now, while he didn't have any assists, which I was not a fan of, he was also -4, which I did not like. He did have 2 power play goals, so, like, hey, that's something. He had 18 shots on goal, so again, not too shabby. I think that for me, though, what I want to see him do more is have more hits. I mean, he only had 6 hits in the series, and he averaged about 17 and a half minutes. Takeaways, he had 0. However, the giveaways, he had 8. So this is also really interesting, right? Because he's only played 28 playoff games. It seems more, but it wasn't. Obviously, 2019, 2020, 5 games, 2020, 21, 4 games, 21, 2022, 12 games. And obviously, this year he played 7 games. Again, it's a really weird situation for the Blues, I believe, just because the team hasn't really been, that strong in recent years. And I say that lightly because I do feel for this team. This team was a team that wasn't necessarily supposed to get to the playoffs, but they had that amazing 12-game win streak, which we all know about and love. Didn't love the ending, though, of the story. But, hey, they did accomplish their goal, which was getting to the playoffs. And for me, a win is a win. I will take it. I still obviously am a little upset about the outcome. But at the end of the day, not much more you can do about it, right? So for me with Jordan Kyrou, basically this whole rant and me kind of spitting facts about him is you should not trade him. Maybe he's just not playing to the expectations that you have, but he's progressing every season. He's scoring. I don't know what he can do to get this narrative changed. So if you have an option, an idea, let me know. I'll be interested to hear it, and I'm sure he will be as well. So I want to talk to you about a couple players I think that we can package. And of course, we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. But first, I want to talk to my friends over at Monarch Money. And honestly, nothing wants to work on here. Okay, well, we're just going to get into it. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on my food delivery, okay? Between the Uber Eats, the DoorDash, you name it. Your girl was spending a little bit too much on some sushi, but now I just honestly budget smarter and I actually just pick it up myself now, right? Saving money. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can share personal accounts, set goals, and that's my most important thing is setting goals. Is that my ideal goal is to save as much money as possible, so that way I can do things like travel for hockey. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So when it comes to packages, right? That is something that I feel like is really important for this Blues team is to potentially have a trade package. Now, who would that package include? For me, I would include a Justin Folk, or I would include Anyway, sorry about that little delay, but I would include a Justin Folk or Nick Leddy. I think for me personally, I want to see this team tread in the right direction. And defense has been an issue. And right and Nick actually want that. Or what you can do is have, oh man, here we go. Like Alexei Turchenko and Justin Folk. And I hate this. A Bushi and Letty or something like that, even though I don't think Bushi's going to go. And I hate it. I just don't know where this team would go and what players you would honestly be okay giving up. Or would it be you would give up like Letty and a draft pick? I don't necessarily know the answer because, again, I'm not a general manager. Hi, I'm Haley. I'm the host of Locked On Blues, not a GM. But what I do know is that these players should not be playing for the Blues this upcoming season. And I'm not saying about Bushi or I'm talking about Letty and Folk. I just think in an ideal world, I would blow up the defense and I would work around Parayko, Fowler, Broberg, and Suter if the Blues do want Suter back. It's a really difficult situation for the Blues. And it's a situation where this team really needs to make some tough decisions, okay? Because at the end of the day, other teams are not going to be interested in just a Nick Leddy or a Justin Folk. They're going to want some more value out of that. And if you're not going to be able to give that to another team, then let's face it, they're not going to want to make any trades with you, okay? So I don't know. I'm pulling out my notes here because I took some notes. I've been reading a lot of articles, per usual, on players that potentially could be traded, a lot of trade rumors. And the one player that I keep on going back to is Keandre Miller, defenseman of the New York Rangers. And he is somebody that I have a lot of interest in for the Blues. But again, I don't think it's going to happen. Right? And of course, you know, there's always the UFAs and the RFAs and but like, do we really think the Blues are going to do that? Like, Mitch Marner definitely does not have the Blues as one of his teams, right? And there's rumors that the Sharks and the Blue Jackets and the Ducks are preparing to offer, Mitch Marner whatever he wants, whatever. And you have Jonathan Marchessault, who I personally really like. However, this is a player that's now being linked to the Maple Leafs. And again, he's on the Predators now. He was on the VGK. But again, left winger, not really much of an asset that we need at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily think Ryan O'Reilly would be an option. But again, he's been like rumored. And I'm like, okay, what the bleep? And that makes me a little bit nervous just because with Ryan O'Reilly, like, I love him. I just don't want the Blues to go back, right? You also have Rasmus Ristolainen, 30 years old, in the Philadelphia Flyers. I think for Philadelphia, it's apparent some of the players that will not be coming back. Like, besides Rasmus Ristolainen, Igor Zamula did not speak to the media as well on exit interview day. So, at least for me, that was kind of like an indication that there might be something going on. But yeah, like, again, who knows what this team is going to do, and who knows what's going to happen with Joel Hofer. And when it comes to RFAs, that's a player that right now I get really nervous about. Now, I'm going to relay this to the finals. Yeah. Oh, really fast. If the Blues were able to get Mason McTavish from the Ducks, I'd be really happy about that. I'm not going to lie. And hold on, I'll relate in a second. Also, Cam York is somebody who's a defenseman too from Philadelphia as well, that I would not be upset about. You also have Jordan Harris, Montreal. Oh man, I hate that. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Devon Levy from Buffalo, Hofer, and then Caden Primo from the Canadiens. All RFA goalies. But oh man. But you know who's the number one RFA defenseman? It's Evan Bouchard. He's right now the premier RFA of this offseason. Well, almost offseason because he's still in the finals. He had a 2-year deal with a $3.9 million cap hit. His annual salary this season was $4.3 million, and he is expected to have a big raise. Now, I did talk to Nick from Locked On Oilers about this like about a month ago or so ago. I think the Blues could go in with an offer sheet. I do. And this is something I'll talk about in more detail soon in a different episode. But he is the kind of player that you need. He's still young. He showed a lot of great growth, obviously a lot of great experience now, heading back to the finals, obviously. So the Blues should try to go after a player like him. Again, the reason why I even bring this up is because I'm tying this back into the finals. I'm watching the Stanley Cup Finals last night, right? And I'm thinking to myself, Hales, I'm bored. Go Matthew Tkachuk, St. Louis native. And then the broadcast said the inevitable. The most physical series was the Blues and the Jets. Bro, why is it that a round one series was more captivating, entertaining than the finals? Like, I am sorry, and I try to be optimistic. And you know that about me. You know my love for hockey, and I'm Hockey Haley. You know that. However, I don't understand how you're able to say during the broadcast of the Stanley Cup Finals and the Jets series was more entertaining, was more interesting, was more physical than any of the other series that took place in the playoffs. Like, that to me is mind-boggling. And it just makes me think about how special this Blues team is. I mean, they put up a fight, and that's what you're supposed to do in playoff hockey. You're supposed to put up a fight. You're supposed to show grit, enthusiasm, physicality, you name it. Blues, they did that. Now, again, I hate watched the second round. I'm not going to cap. I'm not going to do that. I struggled, but what are you going to do? Like, yesterday was 1 month since the Blues got eliminated, 1.6 seconds. Like, yeah, pain for life on that one. But, like, what am I going to do about it? Like, there's nothing to do. Like, the team was not supposed to be in the playoffs. I think for me, what I get frustrated about is the fact that people look back when we won the Cup in 2019 and say, oh, that was a Cinderella story. That was a story of, good luck. No, it was a story of hard work. And if there's one thing about the culture here for the Blues, it's that this team, no matter who is on the squad, when they go to the playoffs, for the most part, they put up a fight. And that's what Blues hockey is. It's tough, physical hockey. Maybe the Blues don't have like the biggest star names that people know about. I mean, obviously, like Robert Thomas is my star, and one day he will get the recognition nationally. But it infuriates me when I am watching the finals and I am bored. It went to overtime, right? And I'm thinking, do you get deja vu? No, I can't sing. But I got deja vu because a month ago, yesterday, yeah, that's right, May 4th, the Blues and the Jets went to overtime, and then the Blues lost in double overtime. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm watching an overtime game again. I'm tired. It's almost midnight. And Edmonton scores. Florida loses. Now, I think Florida's going to come back and they're going to win game 2. Why am I telling you this? Because there was no better final series than the Blues and the Bruins. And then you have like a guy like Brad Marchand, right? And it's like, whoa. It's just like, it's crazy like how these players rotate. And then you see Corey Perry, who's 40. Nothing against him being 40, like, at all. And it's just, Florida's so good. I hate to say it because I know that this fan base wasn't so nice to me, but Edmonton, good team too, obviously. So you have two highly skilled teams. I just want to see a little bit more chippiness and just some more momentum. I know it was game 1, but the Blues and Bruins didn't have that issue. All right, I'll talk to you more tomorrow, hopefully with some better internet connection. And like always, let's go Blues.